call the 287th Annual Town Meeting to order. The Town of Sturbridge, as it's, first off, my name is Lee McDarren. I am your newly elected moderator. I have some very large shoes to fill. The moderator emeritus, Mike Caplet. In any event, the Town of Sturbridge, as it is known today, held its first meeting in 1738. I know in the past that there was some disagreement about what year we start the count from as far as what number annual meeting it is, but over the weekend I consulted with an amateur chronologist and he assured me that this is indeed our 287th annual meeting. I love that kind of history. Something else I also learned recently was that the first moderator for the Town of Sturbridge served 20 years. The most recent moderator served 23 years. I don't plan to follow that lead. All right, by charter and past practice, there is no quorum needed. It could just be Lynn and I having this meeting, but I'm very happy to see you all here tonight. I am particularly pleased to see Moderator Emeritus Mike Caplet. I want to publicly thank Mike for his service to the Town of Sturbridge, which now includes helping me prepare to conduct a fair, procedurally correct, and efficient town meeting. So thank you. Next, please silence or shut off your cell phones. While you're doing that, also please take note of the emergency exits around the auditorium in the event of an emergency. I would also ask you in that regard to please do not stand or congregate in the aisles or against the back wall. Unless you are working for the meeting, please remain seated. Now, if you would stand if you are able for the Pledge of Allegiance. There's a bit of a delay in the mic, but that should be the last time I shut it off. All right, so in any event, please remain standing for a moment of silence. I want to take this time to reflect on the importance of our military service members and hope for their safety, for the safety and gratitude of all of our first responders, to those we have lost to gun violence, for the well-being of our sometimes fractured nation, and for members of our community that have passed away since the last annual town meeting. They are Patricia Barnacle, who served on the Burgess and Tantascwa School Committee, Pat Jeffries, who served as a Zoning Board of Appeal member, and Marilyn Dessy, a teacher's aide at Burgess Elementary School. If we have missed anybody, it certainly is an oversight. Please see Lynn, our town clerk, after the meeting so that we may remember them at the next meeting. Please, a moment of silence. Thank you, and you may be seated. All right, so first we will have introductions of some of our important boards and committees tonight. We'll start with the Finance Committee and our chair, Kevin Smith.
Kevin Smith, chair.
Jim Warren, vice chair.
Larry Morrison.
Kathy Neal.
Mike Hager.
Ken Talentino.
Mike McGlone.
Krista Rose.
MC Porter.
Good evening. Thank you for taking part in this year's annual town meeting. With the warrant budget being presented to you, the town still can balance its expenditures with expected revenues while still holding on to an enviable credit rating of AA+ and stable. For their knowledge, full cooperation, and service to our community, the Finance Committee wishes to thank Finance Director Barbara Berry, Town Administrator Robin Grimm, School Superintendent Deborah Boyd, and the department heads, as well as the town boards, committees, and commissions for their consultations. As far as the Finance Committee is concerned, we've done your legwork. The Finance Committee scrutinizes every line item in the budget, whether it's $10 or $10 million, as well as every warrant article. Tonight, the committee will recommend, and you, by your votes, will decide what the town will accomplish in the coming fiscal year beginning July 1st. With an eye to the future, the Finance Committee has produced a section named Issues for Your Consideration that appears on page Roman numeral 3 in the report of the Finance Committee. Please take the opportunity to read them and think about them. Additionally, I'd also like to thank the members of the Finance Committee for all of their hard work and dedication in developing our report, which began last December and culminates this evening. As always, I ask you to consider your votes carefully. And now, on behalf of the Finance Committee, I offer congratulations to Lee Darren, who in the history of Sturbridge is the first woman to serve as moderator.
Next, introductions of our select board and commentary from Jamie Goodwin.
Jamie Goodwin.
Mary Blanchard.
Chase Kabinski.
Mary Dowling.
Mary Lou Volpe.
Thank you. First of all, we appreciate everybody coming out tonight. You know, the status of the town is things are going well. We have a lot of work to do in the future to maintain that, and we're going to have a good, clear eye on our finances for that reason. And for that purpose, I'd like to thank Kevin and the FinCom for all their hard work, because I assure you, without their stewardship, this town's bond rating and the quality of the life that we have would not be maintained. So just appreciate while you're here tonight how much work this took, and they do not get paid for it. So be respectful and really thank them if you see them. Next, I'd like to thank all the staff, Robin, everybody in town for all their hard work. Again, this all doesn't just happen, so thank you, thank you, thank you. To that end, I also would like to welcome our new moderator and give a brief comment on our previous moderator, Mike. So the board just took a vote to give a proclamation in his honor at our meeting a half hour before this, and I would just like to read it into the record, and we will have plaque for you, Mike, which we're very excited. So, whereas Michael Caplet began his service to the town of Sturbridge as town moderator on April 1st, 2001, and whereas Michael Caplet has served the residents of Sturbridge as the town moderator for 23 years, and whereas Michael Caplet has used his broad experience and skills to ensure that democratic governing, which has been used for over 300 years, was maintained and upheld. And whereas Michael Caplet ensured that the people of Sturbridge could make their voices heard and help to decide the course of the government closest to them. And lastly, whereas Michael Caplet moderated his last town meeting on January 22nd, 2024, now therefore the Select Board of the Town of Sturbridge of Massachusetts wishes to extend their deepest gratitude for Michael Caplet's years of service and dedication to the town of Sturbridge. Thank you, Mike. And everybody.
Next, our town administrator, Robin Grimm.
Thank you all. Thank you for participating tonight in the most important process that we have outside of elections. We are the part of the country where we still hold true to everything that government was meant to be in our country, which is actually government by the people, and here you are the people governing. And it's extremely exciting to have you here. I want to thank my team. As always, they're tremendous. I have a great team to work with from the day I walked in here. Experienced group of people. They make this happen behind the scenes. Everything that's been brought forward in this warrant has come with huge research and backup and support from that team. I want to thank the FinCom. It's always a great process to go through. It keeps us all on our toes to be able to answer and respond to those questions. It really makes us think about all that we have to do when we bring these things forward to FinCom. And Lee, best of wishes, and look forward to working together with you.
Thank you very much. Also on the stage, we have Town Council Jonathan Eichman, our Town Clerk Lynn Gerard, and the Assistant to the Town Administrator Michelle Garman, and then I will explain these two characters over there shortly. All right, there are a number of preliminary issues that I need to address, so please bear with me. First, our bylaws require that the moderator appoint members of the Finance Committee on a rotating basis. This year, the 3 members whose terms are up have all graciously agreed to continue to serve town, and I therefore reappoint them to 3-year terms starting July 1st, 2024. Those 3 members are Kevin Smith, James Waddick, and Ken Talentino. Next is non-voters should be seated in the area over here designated for them. Unless you are a caretaker and need to be seated next to a voter who needs your assistance, please sit over here in the area for non-voters. Speakers. We are here to address the articles in the warrant. And in the warrant as scheduled. And I welcome and encourage your statements on them. But please understand that this is not a forum to air grievances or to discuss other matters. Please stick to the articles at hand and the motions as they appear, or substitute motions should one of those occur. If you want to address the meeting, to ask a question, or to discuss a motion, you must first be recognized by the moderator. The lighting and the view from here is not too bad. I see some folks sitting up there. I'd prefer you to move down, but if you want to speak, please walk to one of the microphones on either side of these aisles here so that I can see you and call on you. If you are disabled and unable to walk to the microphone, please raise your hand, make a weird sound, whatever we need to do, and let us know that you do want to speak, and someone will bring the microphone to you. Before you begin speaking, please state your name and address. Also, past practice has been that a voting speaker has 4 minutes to address the issue that they wish to, and I will continue that practice. Extensions to that time are within the discretion of the moderator, and time limits generally don't appear to those that are answering questions you may have asked, or department heads, etc., who may address issues or explain some of the warrants to you. Non-voter speaking time is within the discretion of the moderator. So you'll see over here to my left and to your right a little traffic light, and 2 individuals who have agreed to help us tonight, 2 recent graduates, as in they graduated on Sunday, Mason Leo and Finn Garcia. What the traffic light is to serve as a visual cue to you as the body on how long someone has been speaking. 4 minutes is a long time, but sometimes 4 minutes can feel like they've been speaking for 4 hours. So the idea is to show you just how long they have been speaking and to ensure that things are done fairly. I want to be known as someone that is very fair, as Mike was. So that's what the traffic light is. When you come up, and this is just an experiment, it's not going to be held hard and fast. When you come up and you are recognized, a green light will go on, and it will stay on for 3 minutes. At the end of those 3 minutes, a yellow light will go on, signaling that you have 1 moment left in your time to speak. Then the red light will go on, at which point I would ask you to wrap up your sentence and please honor the time. Keep in mind that the longer you talk, the more time you have to confuse your issue. That's the greater chance to confuse rather than persuade. And if you can get your point across in 1 minute, by all means do it. Don't feel like you have to use all 4 minutes. If there is an issue where there are pros and cons, I will try to alternate the best I can. Perhaps if I get a sense of that, I will direct pros and cons to either side of either microphone, but we'll wait to see if that occurs. Next, at some point, a member of the town meeting will tire of a particular discussion or debate, and they will say, move the question. When that occurs, we must immediately consider that motion to move the question. There is no discussion on a motion to move the question. And there is also no further discussion on the actual article that the speaker wishes to move. And so all discussion is suspended until the motion to move the question is acted on. I hope that's clear to everybody. If the motion to move the question passes, we will vote on the article without any additional debate. If the motion to move fails, our debate will continue. All right, and now we don't have an official code of conduct here in the town of Sturbridge, but unofficially, rules of a meeting are very important. But if we hold on to those rules too tight, only lawyers will understand them, such as Attorney Eichmann or myself, although I'm an immigration and criminal attorney, I don't know much about municipal law yet. But if we hold on to them too tight, it really does become perhaps the perception of being unfair. But on the other hand, if we ignore them or adhere to them too loosely, we have anarchy, and no one wants that, particularly me. So we're going to follow the meeting rules, and hopefully we won't be required to rigidly adhere to them if things were to get a little unwieldy. and I intend to exercise flexibility where it is legally permissible to do so. All right, and as we all know, disagreement is the essence of democracy. We can disagree in a civilized manner, but in the words of Mike Caplet, we are friends and neighbors, and let's keep it that way. Next, our parliamentary procedure. The first thing I did when I considered running for moderator was to buy this book. It contains all of the procedural rules that apply to our town meeting, and we've actually adopted in our town bylaws in section 62-7, along with the Robert's Rules of Order if we need to go further into the weeds, and then ultimately issues are within the discretion of the moderator. Substitute or amended motions, they're actually interchangeable. Verbal motions are okay. I'm aware of a potential substitute motion. I would prefer to have those in writing so that we can accurately record what you are seeking to amend within a motion. Lynn has stepped out for a moment, but her notes rule. If on Monday morning next week we find out that her notes are different than what we all agreed or thought we agreed to are different, it is her notes that govern what happened here tonight. Also, please note that substitute motions will require a second to bring it to a vote, and I'll address that a little bit further in a few minutes. Next, I am not going to schedule any breaks. If you need to leave the auditorium for whatever reason, please do so, but if you decide to leave the building, be sure to return your clicker, or Lynn or Sheila will call you tomorrow wanting to know where it is. I also do not plan to schedule or vote on a specific end time to our meeting, but we will assess the need to adjourn around 10:30 p.m. if we had not finished the annual town meeting and the special town meeting. All right, next, the clickers. You may remember in the past several years when the clickers were available to us that we had to vote on whether to use them or not. At the April election and with the revised charter, we did agree that clickers or electronic devices were acceptable and that it can be found in Town Charter Section 3-3, so there's no vote on whether to use them. But we will have 2 test questions so that everyone can reacquaint themselves with how to use them. They were tested last week by the town clerk, our IT administrator, Jeremy Jalbert, and Michelle Garment and me, and they are ready to go. They have all fresh batteries. They should be fine. So on the clicker, you will see a 1A, which means you're voting yes in favor of the motion. 2B is no. The other buttons, disregard. You are free to press them all you want, but they are useless. On your little screen here, once you make your choice, and keep in mind you can change your mind all during the 20 seconds that you have to vote. In the upper right-hand corner of your little screen, it will show OK. Once that little OK shows up, that means you have successfully voted. There is a few seconds of time delay between when you press the button and when the OK shows up. Don't worry and think that it's not working. The OK, once it shows up, your vote will be recorded. So now we will have a couple of test questions to make sure they're all operating. You ready to go? All right, so the first test question is, did you enjoy the Memorial Day Parade? And the voting will start now. Five seconds. And voting is closed. We had 137 people voting, 90 in favor, 47 against. That's how it should work. All right? Next test question. Do you like voting with the clickers? Yes, we're ready. Voting will start now. Five seconds. And voting is closed. 134 likes to vote with the clickers, 10 do not. Thankfully, it's no question, but now we know whether people like it or not, and we will continue to use them. So those are the test questions. I hope there are no questions on how these operate after that refresher, or perhaps introduction for those of you that have never been able to vote before. This is Mason Leo's first annual town meeting and his first experience with the clickers. All right, one last preliminary matter that I'm required by our charter to do is to appoint a deputy moderator. I have appointed Mr. Alan Peppel as deputy moderator, but his appointment does need to be confirmed by vote, and so that will be the first vote of consequence that we take tonight. And the voting will start now. Five seconds. Voting is closed. Mr. Peppel is confirmed. Thank you very much. All right, so before we proceed to the articles, I will echo our chair of the board, select board, Mr. Goodwin, in thanking all of our elected and appointed volunteers that make up our town government, and in particular our employees who ensure the smooth running of our town. And with that, the procedural matters are complete, and Madam Clerk, if you have the warrant for tonight, the official town warrant. I'm holding it up for all of you, but I want you to know that I examined it earlier today, and I am satisfied that it was properly prepared, executed, and posted, and contains the return of the constable who posted it, and it has been verified, so we are ready to proceed. We need a motion to accept the warrant as prepared.
So moved.
Thank you. Voting will begin now. Five seconds. Voting is closed.
Take that cord.
The motion carries. All right, next, on the warrant articles. Sturbridge has a past practice to waive the reading of the actual articles. That means not to read through each one word by word. They are comprehensive, in some cases quite lengthy. The warrant articles have been made available in advance for your review. You have the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee recommendation votes, and you have the Finance Committee recommendation and dialogue box at the bottom of each article. So therefore, I would entertain a motion to waive the reading of the actual articles.
So moved.
In a second. Voting will begin now.
Okay, so just unplug this and take off these three. And plug them into the back of this cable.
5 seconds.
Not on the fly.
Voting is closed. All right, the motion passes. Next, we also have past practice that waives the need for a second on the Finance Committee recommendations. They've studied the budget, as you've heard, in the articles, and the bylaws direct that the Finance Committee make their recommendations. And as I stated a few moments earlier, any substitute or amended motion will require a second, but the ones as printed in the warrant will not. And may I have a motion?
So moved.
Second? Voting will begin now. Oh. Do you want that sentence? They're adding one sentence to the motion. Stand by. Voting will begin now. Five seconds. Voting is closed. Survey says. They're working through this. I'm staring at a screen as if I understand what's happening, and I don't.
Just to jiggle some wires. I know which next slide is on. It connects to the axis.
All right, the results of the vote, until we can get it up, were 140 to 2 in favor of the motion. So with that, let's get right to work on the actual warrant. Article 1. To hear the reports of the various boards and town officials. It's all in the white book that's been available at the town hall for several weeks and was available for you as you came in tonight. I can't imagine that you've read them all, but that is the first article. May I have a motion? Or we'll act on the motion of the finance committee?
This is gonna go back to.
If they're ready, are you ready to take that? Are you ready?
You can see where I'm.
All right, voting starts now.
This is a good fallback shot. It's kind of universal. If people come up to the microphones and start talking, then you'll get
5 seconds.
whichever microphone they're going to, you can get over and get them. But otherwise,
Voting
this
is
a good shot.
closed. And it's not showing up.
Yep.
Technical difficulties, they're gonna have to shut it down and reboot. Who hasn't heard that from their help desk at work? Yeah, it shows up in the top. We wanna have the visual for everyone. Great, my initial test of patience. Piece of paper. Ready? All right, so let's see how this one goes. So Article 2, the Community Preservation Committee report. The result of the first vote, Article 1, was 142 to 1. All right, and now we are on to Article 2. Hopefully things will go a little more smoothly now. Community Preservation Committee, they too must file a separate report. And we will start the voting now. Five seconds. Voting is closed. All right, is it up in the upper right-hand corner? Jeremy will get it done for us. The result was 141 to 2. We'll get it up on the screen for you. I'm a big proponent of visual cues. He'll figure it out. All right, we're going to totally shut it down and reboot it. Anybody heard a good joke lately? be a time saver, and, no, it's not the clickers, it's our software. They'll figure it out. What did I say about adhering rigidly to the rules? Yeah, yeah. We won't have any more than Michelle, it'll be fine.
That you zoom out and get as much of the whole storage as you can.
Zoom out.
Okay, sorry about that. You don't run this camera maybe once a year. Like that.
Well, already then.
There you go.
I didn't know it was at school.
There you go. See how it looks to the folks at home?
Yeah.
Although you can't hear it. I'm sure.
Sometimes it's not. But no, they're not missing.
Jeremy's having a bad day.
See that?
We're now having an equipment change in addition to a rebooted software.
For the dollar. Suppose it's the downside of having only one person in your.
What's that?
I suppose it's the downside of having only one person in your tech department.
Yeah.
My deputy moderator is reconsidering whether he wants the position or not.
We should have a thing hooked up. It's not hard for them to do anything. Expecting a situation like this. You have audio and video coming out. And all you have to do, unplug those wires down here. Plug in the wires to the camera right up there. And then you just take the audio out. Cut it down.
let's give it a shot and see if we can continue. Article 3, the Community Preservation Administrative Funds. This is to keep their office, stamps, mailings, etc. going. Voting will commence now. Five seconds. Voting is closed. Yay! 140 to 7. All right, fantastic. Let's carry on, and I'm not going to rush anything, but let's try to move on. Article 4, Community Preservation Debt Service. We have to pay our debts for money borrowed in the past. Ready to vote? Voting begins now. Five seconds. Voting is closed. Vote carries 143 to 8. Next article, Community Preservation Gravestone Restoration. No discussion. Voting will begin now. Five seconds. Voting is closed. Motion carries, 137 to 13. Moving on to Article 6, Community Preservation General Trails Property Enhancements. You'll see in the dialogue box, that is because town trails are heavily used and continual enhancements are made to the trail system each year. Seeing or hearing no discussion, voting will begin now. Five seconds. Voting is closed. And the article passes 127 to 22. Moving on to Article 7, Community Preservation Grand Trunk Trail Extension. This funding will allow for the continuation of the Grand Trunk Trail as described in the dialogue box. Seeing no one coming forward for discussion, voting will start now. Five seconds. And the voting is closed. 119 to 30, the article passes. Article 8, Community Preservation Town Historic Survey. Seeing no indication of discussion, the voting will begin now. Five seconds. And the voting is closed. 122 to 30. The article passes. Next is Article 9, Community Preservation Housing. Please take note of the dialogue box at the bottom. This is to hire a part-time housing coordinator. Any discussion? Please come forward and state your name and address, please.
Janet Gammon, 236 Roy Road. I just have some concerns about this article anyway, and I have for a long time. I was one of the original members of the Community Preservation Committee, and with the length of time that we've had, it seems like we've not made a lot of progress in this category. In the back of my head, I think of the elderly people here, many of them who could not afford housing now, some not particularly in this area, but generally speaking in Massachusetts, we have a lot of elderly going to live in cars and that kind of thing. It's that desperate. I know what the rental prices are. I own real estate property. I try to keep them fair so that I'm not overburdening those people. I know we've built houses for one family in the past, and I know that that's proper. You know, they mentioned that in here as a way to use the 140,000 is again to target that population rather than the elderly continuously. So I'm hoping, I'm not saying to vote or not to vote for this. All I'm saying is I have concerns that we're really making, we should be making more progress than what we have with the amount of elderly people in our community. And that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Madam Administrator, any comment to the concern? All right, thank you for your observations. Any other discussion? All right, with that, the voting will begin now. Five seconds. Voting is closed. The article passes 111 to 44. Moving on to Article 10, Community Preservation Riverlands OSB easement construction. Seeing no one approaching microphones, no discussion, no question. Voting will begin now. Five seconds. Voting is closed. The article passes 126 to 27. Moving on, Article 11, Community Preservation Honor Roll and Civil War Memorial Plaque. Any discussion? Any questions? Seeing none, voting will start now. Five seconds. Voting is closed. 138 to 12, the article passes. Carrying on now to Article 11, Community Preservation Gifford Road Milestone Restoration. No discussion, no questions. Seeing and hearing none, voting will begin now. Five seconds. Voting is closed. The article passes 137 to 13. Now, Article 13. I had information that perhaps the motion was going to be withdrawn, but what we have here is, although the Finance Committee thinks that the Finance Committee has recommended that we take no action on the motion. And although the Finance Committee thinks this is a worthwhile project, they want some parameters or some guidelines set. So unless there is a substitute motion, we will pass the article with no action taken and it will be deemed defeated. Is there a substitute motion? Hearing none, we will move on to Article 14. The motion is deemed defeated. All right, now the town budget. This is a little more interesting. If you want to follow along, I plan to read out the department's budget and the total. If you have questions, sub-motions, a line item issue, or any other issue, please put your hand up and state hold. And Mr. Waddick, may I call on you to take note of the names of the person who had the hold. Thank you, sir. We'll need, so we have the Finance Committee volunteer, we'll need your name, your address, and the specific issue that you question. We are then going to vote on all of the other portions of the budget that did not have any concerns raised, and then we will return to your questions, your holds, and whether and if there are any substitute motions, the substitute motions. All right, that is in accordance with past practice. I hope that many of you know how that will go. And with that, we will start with the Select Board, $3,600. Town Administrator, $331.12. And just so you know, we're on what's called page 1 of the budget book. With me. Finance Committee, $7,882. Town Accountant, $123,530. Board of Assessors, $182,509. Finance Director, $379,950. Town Council, $70,000. Information Technology, $331,019. Town Clerk, $146,007. Moving on to the next page. Elections and Registration, $44,980. Conservation Commission, $135,643. Town Planner, $236,761. Zoning Board of Appeals, $590. Economic Development, $38,229. Facilities, $163,979. Town Hall, $36,550. Next page. Center Office Building, $34,900. Senior Center Building, $26,650. Joshua Hyde Library Building, $23,200. Safety Complex, $95,815. Nursery School, $5,400. Police Department, $3,991,275. And vote to 0. All right. Let me back up to 8 Brookfield Road. $0. Forgive my skipping over. Thank you, Mr. Smith, for pointing out my oversight. Next, we'll move on to the fire department. $2,179,546. Building inspector, $160,260. The sealer of weights and measures, $13,090. Inspectors, $55,778. Tree warden, $39,634. Education, $22,283,614. Department of Public Works, $1,358,079. Town road maintenance, $8,000. Snow and ice removal, $241,661. The landfill and recycling center, $427,638. Board of Health, $140,957. Community Health, $5,000. Inspection and testing, $52,284. Council on Aging, $169,257. Veteran Services, $79,128. Name, please, to Mr. Waddick.
Eric Reynolds, 317 Wetmont.
Any specific line item?
Veterans benefits.
Veterans benefits.
In South.
All right, we'll come back to that after we complete the budget. Any others?
American Legion. Big Burlington, 5 Shamble Road.
Mr. Waddick, were you able to hear that? 5 Shampoo Road. 5 Shampoo Road. Thank you, sir. We'll come back to Veterans Services. Next, Joshua Hyde Library Operations, $612,629. Recreation, $155,536. Trails Committee, $500. Historical Commission, $4,150. Debt service principal, we have to pay back our loans, $1,620,000. Debt service interest, $691,546. Next is the omnibus unclassified budget, $5,494,002. Central purchasing, $470,750. For a total, excluding any changes that may take place with the veterans' benefits, $42,672,520. I think since there is only one hold, we'll address the hold and then vote on the budget. The speaker who had the hold, please approach this microphone and raise your issues.
Thank you. Eric Reynolds, 317 Lindmine Road. I just had a question regarding salaries and the veterans benefits. One of which is really easy, real simple. Is veterans benefits, is that supposed to be Chapter 115? Okay, I just think for clarification's sake, in the future, changing that line item to Chapter 115 can be helpful. Because for some folks, at least I've spoken to in town, especially veterans, they think that there's just a random benefit out there, they have no idea, and I've tried to educate them about Chapter 115. So I'm a former veteran service officer for the town of Auburn. And then for salary, I would suspect, just based on my experience as a VSO, that if we're going to be hiring a department of or a department head for housing that's seeking to attract low income and veterans type housing, that's going to impact our Chapter 115. So just as an example, what happened in the town of Auburn, there was a VA program that brought low-income veterans into the town of Auburn, and all of a sudden our Chapter 115 almost tripled unexpectedly, which you can imagine hurts the budget. So that would just be a couple recommendations, maybe not for this year, but for next year's budget. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and we will follow up on that, and we'll work on changing that line item as well.
Right, and then I believe the speaker had a question on American Legion.
Yes, Jay Gormley, 5 Champlain Road. For the American Legion, the 2,400, another point of clarification is that the Legion actually doesn't spend the 2,400 more than a reimbursement purpose. This was brought up at Legion's meeting. I'm the Vice Commander of the American Legion. So that money is not spent out of veteran services. It's all, the Legion members give thousands of dollars away to help the veterans. That is more of a building maintenance thing from the town, which we're very thankful for. Just want to clarify. Thank you.
Thank you for that point of clarification. Any other issues with veteran services? Did we cover them all? All right, then with that, Article 14 is ready to be voted on. And the voting will begin now. Five seconds. Voting is closed. And the budget is passed. Moving on to Article 15, road construction, repairs, and maintenance. Any questions or commentary? Seeing and hearing none, the voting will start now. Five seconds. Voting is closed. And the article passes. Article 16, Public Access Department for the Public Educational and Government Access. Any questions or commentary? Hearing and seeing none, the voting will start now. Five seconds. Voting is closed. And the article passes. Continuing on to Article 17, Sturbridge Tourist Association. Any discussion or questions? Seeing none, the voting will start now. Five seconds. Voting is closed. And the article passes. Moving on to Article 18, Betterment Committee. Any questions or commentary on this article? Seeing or hearing none, voting will begin now. Five seconds. And voting is closed. The article passes. While we had our little break in the action rebooting computers, Mr. Smith brought up that we'll have a monitor next year set up so that these folks can see what's happening here, so it might be pretty their neck. No chiropractor needed tomorrow morning. All right, Article 19, Capital Improvement Plan. Any question or commentary, introductory notes? Hearing and seeing none, voting will begin now. Five seconds. And voting is closed. The article passes. Moving on to Article 20, the Ambulance Stabilization Fund. Any commentary or questions? Seeing none, the voting will begin now. Five seconds. Voting is closed. And the article passes. Moving on to Article 21, Capital Stabilization Fund. Hearing no need for discussion or questions, the voting. Oh, forgive me. Question? Please come up to the microphone.
William Bouvier, 81 Sturbridge Hills Road. I just have a question regarding, will any of this money be used for the capital projects that we just approved? We're setting aside money.
Town Administrator, would you like to address this, or Mr. Smith?
No. We're putting money aside from our significant free cash balance, kind of just putting it aside at this point, so when that free cash balance should dwindle, we have money to put aside. If you looked at the last article where we did the capital, that was all coming from our free cash balance.
But isn't this fund supposed to fund capital improvements?
Yes.
Then why aren't we using it?
Because at this point, we're trying to build up its balance, and by putting the funds into this type of
Oh,
account.
I understand that, but we're spending $3 million on capital. I know you got free cash, but
Yes.
free cash can be used in other areas too.
Yes, part of the idea of putting it into this account, though, is that the money that stays in the stabilization fund also lets the interest that accrues to it stay within that account. For free cash, it just goes back into our general fund that could be used for other purposes.
But couldn't we use this money and therefore use more free cash to lower the tax in some of the tax rate in some other area? We have a lot of free cash. We have a large balance in this capital fund.
Actually, at the end of this evening, we will only have $3.2 million in free cash, which is only about 7.5% of the operating budget.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for the question, and thank you for the clarification, Mr. Smith. Any other questions? Seeing none, the voting will begin now. Five seconds. Voting is closed. The article passes. Moving on to Article 22, Fire Vehicle Stabilization Fund. Any question or commentary on this? I see someone approaching. We'll take the man on my right first. You're deferring. Please state your name.
Jeff Artist, 68 Fisk Hill Road. My question is, given that in Article 19, without any question or discussion, we passed half of the total ask for that article at $1.4 million for a new fire truck, if we really still need to allocate $100,000 for the future purchase of major fire apparatus.
Mr. Smith?
This is sort of the same explanation. We're taking some of that free cash balance and putting it into this account so the interest sits there and accrues so that in the future we can use it to actually offset some of these expenses. What we're finding out is fire apparatus doubled in cost and also added, if you place the order this year, you're not going to see it for 2 or 3 years. So we're facing that. I know there have been active discussions to actually go in and revise our capital expenditure policies and all that type of stuff to start taking this into account. Because free cash won't be there all the time. But this money with a specific purpose set aside for it, hopefully we can build it up so where it is useful the next time we have to spend $2 million for like a new ladder truck.
We're expecting in the near future to have to buy another new fire truck.
I believe the next one is next year. I think it's a new pumper next year. This particular truck we bought is the, I'm trying to remember what they call it. It's Fire One. It's basically where all their tools are kept in this vehicle when they have to go to a site or an accident site that draws a life would be in it and things like that, so they can pull it. And that vehicle, which really doesn't, a frontline firefighting vehicle, is $1.4 million. I mean, years ago when we were looking to replace the ladder, it was $1.1 million, and that was like 5 years ago. I can't imagine when that comes to what that's going to cost us.
I was just questioning the need.
Sir, if you could go to the mic so everyone could hear your...
Sorry. I said, I don't doubt the cost at all. I was just questioning the need and the time frame. So.
Okay, so in the plan, Mike just mentioned me, there's a truck being replaced at $2 million 3 years down the road.
Anything else for this speaker? Sir?
Jay Grove again, Shampoo Road. Much to the gentleman's question there, if we're just dropping 1.5, we a few years ago we spent money on a broken pumper. Now we're buying a rescue vehicle. We're just seem to be spending money on the front end and trying to backload it. Do we really need a rescue? Do we really need to fix these ladders? And we're just keep buying fire vehicles over and over and over again. Just like, can we have an explanation of what's happening? Because we just passed one to buy an engine.
Madam Administrator, Fire Chief?
So I would defer to the fire chief on the specifics of the type of equipment, but I will tell you one of the things we are working on is a vehicle replacement policy, because what we're finding is the delays in getting these vehicles in now are several years. So if we don't order something now, we may not see it for 2 or 3 years. I will tell you our ambulances get a tremendous amount of use, so they do cycle, and we keep 2 actively on the road. There's one that's a backup, if you will, an emergency one, in case one goes down. But there really is a need to continue to purchase ambulances, and as Kevin alluded to, the finance chair alluded to, the truck, for instance, tonight is a hazards truck. It carries all of the equipment to accidents on the turnpike, things like that. That's different from a pumper or a ladder. So we do take into consideration what the needs of the town are, what the types of fire and responses are that we have. And I will tell you, ambulance responses are significant. We do have a significant number of calls, and it's heavy wear and tear on the mileage on those. We do keep the trucks many years. We keep them and repair them as best as we can. I would defer to the chief on the life of an engine. Typically for us, 25 years for the record. So we do keep them. It seems like it's a lot of purchasing, but it's several different vehicles and there's a cycle on purchasing. And we're trying to, and we will for all vehicles, whether it's DPW vehicles, fire vehicles, we are working on a vehicle replacement plan. And it's really been, this problem has sort of been elevated by the fact of the supply chain issue that is still there. And it's taking 2 or 3 years to get a vehicle. So if we don't start buying them now and have a plan for the future, we are gonna back up. But they are all different types of vehicles. It's not just a constant replacement of the same thing.
And Rescue Run, just to give you, the last time we purchased that was 1997, so it's almost 30 years old at this point.
Yeah, I understand the difference of vehicles. I work in the fire service. It just seems that we're buying a lot of vehicles for a smaller town. I don't know how many vehicles we staff right now with a manpower of 4 on a day shift, is that correct? Who's driving the vehicles? How many are there?
John Grasso, Fire Chief. So we run currently 3 shifts, 4 individuals on a shift, and we also use a callback procedure when we need more personnel. So anytime our resources have been utilized, we call back additional people. We do staff multiple types of vehicles. The vehicle we're replacing in this year's budget is a heavy rescue vehicle that gets used a lot on the turnpike, on 84, on Route 20, on Route 49, I mean any of the big roads. It does carry all of our specialized vehicles. A few years ago, we replaced a pumper. That was due to a catastrophic failure of a frontline pumper that had a cracked frame rail that took took the vehicle out of service permanently. As the town administrator alluded to, the ambulances were on a 7-year cycle. Unfortunately, with the delays and supply chain issues due to COVID, those ambulances are taking 24 to 30 months for us to get. And the unfortunate reality is an ambulance is approximately $500,000 these days. So we're looking at trying to keep 2 frontline ambulances running so that we can respond to multiple calls at the same time. In order to do that, the replacement plan is a 7-year replacement plan, but it just seems like every couple of years we're having to order another ambulance.
Thank you, Chief.
Yes.
And thank you for your question and commentary, sir. Anything else? Anyone else? With that then, the voting will begin. I'll give them a chance to get to their clickers. The voting will begin now. Five seconds. And voting is closed. The article passes. Article 23, the OPEB Trust Fund. The dialogue box below the article will explain what this is about. Any questions or commentary? Hearing and seeing none, the voting will begin now. Five seconds. And the voting is closed. And the article passes. Article 24. Stabilization Fund Transfer. Did I see a hand go up somewhere? No question, no commentary? Then the voting will begin now. Five seconds. And the voting is closed. The article passes. Article number 25, reevaluation interim adjustments. Any questions on this article? Hearing none, the voting will start now. Five seconds. Voting is closed. And the article passes. Article 26, senior exemption. Any question or commentary? Seeing none, the voting will begin now. Five seconds. Voting is closed. And the article passes. Article 27, revolving funds spending limits for fiscal year 25. Folks coming down to the mic, or are you leaving? Okay. Sorry to draw attention to you, and I'll give you. All right, hearing no questions, seeing no questions, the voting will begin now. Five seconds. And the voting is closed. And the article passes. Article 28, Water Department. Water Department.
Louis Faison, 126 Foreign Lane 8, and I'm on the Board of Health here in town. And I think everybody's pretty familiar at this point with the forever chemicals, the PFAS chemicals, but I didn't see any mention of that in the annual report. And I also don't see from our expenditures that we're actually reserving any money for that issue. And I wondered what is really happening as far as consultation, assessment, possible mitigation, and analysis of the water supply.
Our DPW Director.
Good evening.
State your name for the
Heather
record,
Blakely, DPW Director. I oversee the water department and the sewer department in town, along with the highway and other features. The water is tested for PFAS, and so far we have been below the standards and below non-detect. We've had some very slight hits, but when apparently resampling, they've been non-detect. We are monitoring the sources as required by Mass DEP, and so far we are been very fortunate. In addition, we have joined legislation against the chemical if we have anything in the future, but at this time we haven't seen that as being an issue in our water system.
That's very good to hear. Yeah, I think it would have been good to put that in the annual report, but that's, people are interested in that. What about the people on individual wells then? What kind of responsibility does the town have for that?
That would be under Board of Health.
That's up to us. Okay, that's we also need to know that as well. Thank you.
for your commentary and for your explanation. Any other questions? Hearing none, the voting will start now. Five seconds. And the voting is closed. And the article passes. Article 29, Sewer Department. Tony, you're just exercising your legs? All right. Seeing no questions or commentary, then the voting will begin now. Five seconds. And the voting is closed. And the article passes. Article 30, Sewer Project Debt and Betterments. Any question or commentary? Seeing none, the voting will start now. Five seconds. And the voting is closed. And the article passes. All right, thus far this evening, all of the motions that have been all the motions and articles that are presented to you have been majority vote only. This next few, the voting margin must be 2/3 of the body present. So first, and also please note that what you are voting on is not necessarily what's printed right under the title of the article, but it is the actual motion made by the Finance Committee on the recommendation of the Finance Committee. So look and read over the paragraph that appears in italics. That is what we are voting on. So this is the wastewater treatment plant, clarifier coating, and painting. Any questions or commentary on this? All right, hearing and seeing none, the voting will start now. Five seconds. Voting is closed. How's your math, Darren? I think it passed. Yes, it is passed. Oh, they did the math in advance for me. I didn't have to use the mind. All right. Carrying on to Article 32, which also requires a 2/3 vote. And like the last article, you are not voting on the paragraph directly beneath the title. You are voting on the recommendation of the Finance Committee, which is in the form of a motion and is in italics. All right, so this is the prefabricated office building for the water treatment system. Any question or commentary on that article? All right, hearing none, the voting will start now. Five seconds. And the voting is closed. and math says it passed. Carrying on, Article 33, which is also a 2/3 vote. Similar to the last motion, you are voting on the motion that appears as the recommendation of the Finance Committee as opposed to the paragraph directly beneath the title of the article. This is the Stallion Hill water tank replacement, again requiring a 2/3 vote. Are there any questions or commentary on this?
Janet Guerin, 236 Roy Road. I actually have a couple of questions first, I believe. One is in regards to the recommendations, and I'm looking at, well, the bonds and notes issued, this is the Finance Committee, by the way. Well, the bonds and notes issued pursuant to this vote will constitute general obligation debt of the town, and it's expected that any such debt will be paid from user rates and charges. And then, I know we're voting on that, but in the comment section, there was some considerations that were to be made. I know to me it's unclear with this, as someone who has my own sewer system, and it's not the best, just so you know. Actually, this is the water one. Forget what I said. The sewer one is actually great.
Yes,
I've never had a failure in 20 years.
This is the Stallion Hill water tank
Water one,
replacement.
yeah, I get you, but it's still kind of the same, because with the sewer systems, anybody that had private sewers tied into the town. So that was one of the big differences when that happened 20 years ago. We also, too, though, as far as the water goes, we still have our own water systems. And the water in Sturbridge is not the best, as anybody who owns a well will know. And as a result of the quality of the water that comes in, even with systems that are replaced regularly, those systems do cause rot, and there's a lot of maintenance cost involved with having your own well. So, I'm concerned as one of those people that this assessment that's going to be made to the taxpayers may tap into people who do not utilize the public sewers. And I'm asking for clarification on that, whether our vote today is going to turn into something where taxpayers have to pay it that don't use the system.
There are two individuals that I'm certain want to address that. Okay.
Our motion is specifically addressing that concern, in that only the water users will pay in their rates for this borrowing.
The way it reads, and it's just, so in the narrative part, the comments, you make the comment about maybe, so is that the consideration later that I read? It does mention everybody in a way. It refers to taxpayers.
I thought it was crystal clear, but crystal clear
Yeah, it's
that this is
confusing.
going
Yeah.
just on the intention, our intention that we voted on is that the water users will pay through their rates the borrowing costs related to the water tank replacement.
Okay.
It is not going on all the town body, because 60% of the town does not have access to town water. It's
Yeah.
only 40% of the town that has access to town
Okay.
water.
Thank you for clarifying that. That's all I wanted.
Sir, name and address?
Eric Reynolds, 317 Landmine. How does this pertain to the recommendation of the select board for half the funds to come from?
That is not even being considered. This is, the motion tonight is the one that you see underneath the Finance Committee recommendation, which is to go forth and make sure that it's paid through the water rates.
Terrific, thank you.
Any other questions?
Michael Robichaud, 9 Woodlawn Drive. Just
Please
for
repeat yourself a little closer to the mic, please.
Michael Robichaud, 9 Woodlawn Drive. just for clarification, if this motion passes, the $3 million will be paid by rates from the water users. Is that the way this works?
That is correct. The water rate would go up approximately $1.58 just to pay for the debt borrowing.
So there would not be an increase in assessed taxes for those of us that have a well and septic system, that have put $30,000 into a septic system, a well, and a water conditioning system. So
that is the intention, yes.
So a yes vote says that this is just going on to the water users.
Correct.
Thank you. Thank you for clarification.
Any other questions? Hearing no others, the voting will start now. Five seconds. And the voting is closed. And that says that the article passed. Next, Article 34, St. Anne's Tank Sampling and Control Building. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, the voting will commence now. Five seconds. And the voting is closed. And the article passes. All right, we're making up for the time lost during the reboot. Article 35, Stormwater MS4 Compliance. Any questions or commentary on this article? Seeing and hearing none, the voting will begin now. Five seconds. And the voting is closed. And the article passes. Now, the next series of articles, I believe there is a presentation by either the town planner or the planning board. Mr. Blanchard?
My name is Charlie Blanchard, 26 Farquhar Road. I'm chair of the planning board. The following articles, 36 to 42, all represent minor cleanup items that were noticed after the zoning bylaws as revised during the codification project in 2021. The changes are to clean up inconsistent terms, typographical errors, missing text, and improper footnotes. There are no substantive changes to the bylaws as a result of these proposed changes. The planning board held a public hearing as required for the proposed amendments to Article 11, accessory dwelling units, Article 14, intensity regulations, text and table, Section 300-2.2, terms defined, Section 300-4.2, rural residential district, Section 300-15.8, trailer coaches, and Section 300-3.4, floodplain District G and G1 on March 12th, 2024 as required. The hearing was legally published in the local newspaper for 2 consecutive weeks, and all others were notified as required. At the meeting of March 12, 2024, a motion was made by Susan Waters, seconded by David Borbo, and voted 7-0 to support the proposed amendments and ask that these amendments be included on the annual town meeting warrant.
Thank you, Mr. Blanchard. What you heard in the explanation is that public meetings were held for commentary on these bylaw changes, that they are essentially ministerial and to correct inconsistent statements. All of these motions, so Article 36 through Article 42, make sure I have that correct. Yes. All require a 2/3 vote. All are ministerial in nature, and therefore I would entertain a motion to consider them as one cohesive group.
So moved.
Second. Any questions or commentary on this procedural move, or on the articles themselves? All right, hearing none then, the voting will commence now. It's easy for us to do, but it will take our tech support a few seconds to get to each one, but we are voting on all of them at one time. Five seconds. And the voting is closed. And even though just Article 36 is up here, by our motion and second to consider them all together, the vote is 113 to 6 for all of the motions through Article 42. Does everybody understand that? All right, well, that then appears that we have reached the end of the annual town meeting. I would move to dissolve the annual town meeting.
So
that
moved.
we may proceed to the special town meeting. Second? We need to bring that up on the motion to dissolve. We don't, all right, so with that, I want to do a show of hands. Right? May we do this vote by a show of hands instead of our handy clicker to dissolve the annual town meeting? All in favor, raise your hands. Opposed? The motion carries. The 2024 annual meeting is dissolved. We will take a 5-minute break, and we will go right into the special town meeting. All right, I will now call the special town meeting to order. And no, I don't have to go over all of my opening statements again. Article 56, snow and ice removal. Any question or commentary on this transfer motion? Seeing none, the voting will start now. Five seconds. And the voting is closed. The article carries. Article 57, this requires a 9/10 vote. More math for me. Unpaid bills of a previous year. Technical issue, of course. Had one in the annual town meeting, we'll have one here. Okay? Can we proceed? No, don't want to rush you. All right. Unpaid bills of a previous year requires a 9/10 vote. Any discussion? Voting will start now. 5 seconds. And the voting is closed. And the motion carries. Article 58, transfer of funds from free cash for streetlights. Any question or commentary? Hearing none, the voting will start now. Five seconds. And the voting is closed. And the article passes. Carrying on, Article 59, betterment payoff, dissolving of betterments. Any question or commentary? Hearing none, the voting will start now. Five seconds. And voting is closed. And the article passes. Article 60, Old Sturbridge Village easement. Any question or commentary? Hearing none, the voting will start now. Five seconds. And voting is closed. And the article passes. And with the voting on this last article, citizen legislators, we are done for this evening, and I move to dissolve the special town meeting. All in favor? All opposed? Thank you very much.